I stood in the middle of Tiffany Co, holding a $3,000 diamond necklace, about to do something that would change everything. The saleswoman smiled at me expectantly, waiting for my decision, while dozens of shoppers moved around us like I was just another customer making another purchase. But this wasn't just any purchase. This was the moment I finally gave myself what my family had denied me for 26 years: recognition. "I'll take it," I said, loud enough for half the store to hear. "It's my birthday, and I'm buying myself the most beautiful gift I've ever owned." What drove me to this public display? The answer lies in a pattern that started when I was 7 years old and had been building momentum ever since. My name is Emma, and I learned early that being forgotten was my family's specialty. My first real memory of abandonment happened on my 7th birthday. I had been talking about it for weeks, the way only a 7-year-old can. Counting down the days, planning my cake flavour, imagining the presents. When the morning arrived, I bounced into my parents' bedroom at 6 a.m., practically vibrating with excitement. "It's my birthday," I announced, expecting hugs and birthday songs and maybe pancakes shaped like flowers. Instead, my mom groaned and pulled a pillow over her head. "Emma, honey, Daddy and I have to fly to Chicago today. There's an emergency at work." "But it's my birthday," I repeated, like maybe they had forgotten what day it was. "We'll celebrate when we get back," Dad said, already reaching for his phone. "Sarah will take care of you." Sarah, my older sister, was 12 and about as interested in celebrating my birthday as she was in cleaning toilets. I spent that entire day watching her get ready for a sleepover while I sat in my room, wearing the birthday dress I'd picked out a week earlier, waiting for someone to remember I existed. They never rescheduled that celebration. When I turned 12, the pattern had become so predictable, I almost didn't bother getting excited, almost. I had made honour roll that semester and thought maybe, just maybe, they'd want to celebrate both achievements. Instead, I came home from school to find a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to Disney World with Sarah for her volleyball tournament. Emergency trip. Money for pizza in the jar. Back Sunday. Love, Mom and Dad." My birthday was on Saturday. They left Friday night. I spent my 12th birthday eating leftover pizza and watching Sarah's Instagram stories from Space Mountain. The photos showed my parents wearing Mickey ears, laughing and hugging Sarah while she held up a sweet 16 balloon. Even though she was only 15, they had remembered to pack birthday decorations for a celebration that wasn't even happening, but they couldn't remember their other daughter's actual birthday. By 16, I had stopped expecting anything, but I still had hope for my high school graduation. It was a big deal. I was valedictorian, heading to college on a full scholarship. The ceremony was at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, and I had given them the date months in advance. I even put it on the family calendar in red marker. I walked across that stage and scanned the audience for their faces. The gym was packed with families cheering and taking pictures. I saw Sarah in the 3rd row, scrolling through her phone, but no sign of my parents. After the ceremony, while other families gathered for pictures and dinner celebrations, I found Sarah by the parking lot. "Where are Mum and Dad?" I asked, trying to keep the disappointment out of my voice. "Some client emergency," she said without looking up from her phone. Dad said it was really important, like career-defining important. I learned later that the emergency was a client dinner at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I saw the pictures on Dad's LinkedIn the next day, him and 3 colleagues celebrating a minor contract renewal with champagne and steaks. That night, I realized something that would shape the next decade of my life. I wasn't an afterthought in my family. I wasn't even a thought at all. The pattern wasn't subtle. While I maintained a 4.4 GPA and worked 2 part-time jobs to save for college, Sarah coasted through high school with C's and had her car payments, insurance and gas money covered by our parents. When she wanted to try volleyball, they bought her $1,000 worth of equipment. When I wanted to join debate team, they said the tournament travel costs were unrealistic. Sarah was the golden child, the one whose life mattered, whose problems got solved, whose dreams got funded. I was something else entirely. I was the one who existed in the spaces between Sarah's needs, in the leftover time after everyone else's priorities had been handled. By the time I graduated college and started my marketing job, I had stopped expecting invitations to family events. I had developed a protective shell that let me function normally most of the time. I dated occasionally, had good friends, got promoted twice in 3 years. I built a life that looked successful from the outside. But there were still moments when the old wounds would reopen, usually around holidays or birthdays. Christmas of last year was particularly brutal. I had bought thoughtful gifts for everyone, wrapped them beautifully, and assumed I'd be joining the family gathering like always. Christmas morning came and went with no invitation. I finally called my mum around 2 p.m. "Oh, honey," she said, and I could hear laughter and conversation in the background. "We decided to keep it small this year, just immediate family." I was immediate family. I was their daughter. But apparently, somewhere along the way, I had been reclassified. I found out later, through Sarah's Instagram stories, that small meant my parents, Sarah, her boyfriend, and 2 family friends. 7 people. They had room for friends, but not for me. The final breaking point came 6 months ago when Mom had surgery for a minor hernia repair. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was still surgery, and I would have wanted to be there. I found out about it 3 days later when Sarah mentioned it casually during our monthly obligatory phone call. "Wait," I said, "Mum had surgery. When? Is she okay?" "Tuesday. She's fine. It was outpatient. We didn't want to worry you since you're so busy with work." But they had worried Sarah enough to call her. They had worried her boyfriend enough that he sent flowers. I saw the delivery photo on Mum's Facebook page, a huge arrangement with a card that read, "Get well soon, from Jake and Sarah." That's when I started planning something I had never planned before, my own birthday celebration. My 26th birthday was approaching in 3 weeks, and for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't going to hint about it, or hope they'd remember, or make it easy for them to include me. I was going to celebrate myself publicly and dramatically in a way that made it impossible for anyone to ignore. I had been saving money for almost 2 years, originally planning to use it for a down payment on a condo. $23,000 in a high-yield savings account. Money I had earned through overtime hours and skipped vacations and careful budgeting. Money that represented independence and stability and a future I was building by myself. As my birthday approached, I started researching luxury purchases. Not practical ones, not investments, but pure indulgence. The kind of gifts my family might have bought me if they had ever thought I was worth celebrating. I spent hours on jewellery websites, scrolling through Tiffany Co, Cartier, David Yurman. I read reviews and watched unboxing videos and learned about diamond cuts and carat weights. I was looking for something specific, something beautiful enough to justify the cost. But more importantly, something visible enough to make a statement. 3 days before my birthday, I found it. A delicate diamond necklace from Tiffany's Smile collection. 18-carat white gold with a curved line of diamonds that would catch the light every time I moved. It cost $3,500, more than I had ever spent on anything for myself, more than my family had spent on me in my entire lifetime combined. The night before my birthday, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I was about to do. It felt reckless and liberating at the same time. For 26 years, I had been the low-maintenance daughter. The one who didn't ask for much. The one who adapted to whatever scraps of attention were left over after everyone else's needs were met. Tomorrow, I was going to stop being that person. I woke up on my 26th birthday to silence. No calls, no texts, no acknowledgement that this day was any different from any other day. I checked my phone obsessively until noon, hoping for something, anything, that showed someone in my family remembered I existed. Nothing. At 12:30, I saw a notification from Sarah's Instagram. She had posted a photo of an elaborate brunch spread with the caption, "Celebrating life with my favourite people." The photo showed my parents, Sarah, her boyfriend, and 2 friends at some trendy restaurant downtown. They were all dressed up, laughing, raising mimosas in a toast. They were celebrating life. On my birthday. Without me. Something shifted inside me that day, something fundamental and irreversible. I looked at that photo for a long time, studying their faces, their body language, their obvious joy at being together. It was a family celebration, just not one that included their other daughter. I realized I was grieving the family I had never had, the parents who had never prioritized me, the sister who had never seen me as worth defending. I was mourning relationships that had never actually existed, at least not in the way I had always hoped they would. But I was also angry, not the explosive, dramatic kind of anger you see in movies, but something deeper and more determined. I was angry at myself for waiting so long, for hoping so much, for accepting so little. That afternoon, I did something I had never done before. I got dressed up, really dressed up, in a navy blue dress I had been saving for a special occasion, heels that made me feel powerful, and makeup that took me 45 minutes to perfect. I looked in the mirror and saw someone who deserved to be celebrated. Then I drove to the mall. The Tiffany Co store was busy for a Tuesday afternoon. Young couples looking at engagement rings, women trying on tennis bracelets, a teenager with her mum picking out graduation gifts. Everyone looked happy and excited. The way people look when they're buying something meaningful. I had been in this store before, but only to browse, to try things on, and imagine what it would feel like to own something so beautiful. Today was different. Today, I belonged here. The saleswoman who approached me was probably in her 40s, with the kind of polished professionalism that made you feel like royalty just for walking through the door. "Good afternoon," she said warmly. "Is there something special I can help you find today?" "I'm looking for a birthday gift," I said. "For myself." Her smile widened. I love that. Birthdays are absolutely worth celebrating. Do you have anything particular in mind? I described the necklace I had researched, and she led me to the display case like she was presenting crown jewels. When she lifted it out and held it up to the light, the diamonds caught the store's lighting and threw tiny rainbows across the glass counter. This is our Smile collection, she explained, fastening it around my neck. The design represents joy and optimism. I looked in the mirror and saw myself transformed. The necklace was delicate but noticeable, elegant but unmistakably expensive. It was the kind of jewellery that made people look twice, that communicated success and self-respect and celebration. It's perfect, I said. Would you like me to wrap it as a gift? She asked. I considered this for a moment. A gift box would be practical, easier to transport, more traditional. But tradition hadn't served me well so far. No, I said, I'll wear it. As she processed my payment, I felt something I had never experienced before. The pure satisfaction of buying myself exactly what I wanted, without asking permission or justifying the cost or wondering if I deserved it. The price was significant, but so was the statement I was making. When the transaction was complete, I looked around the store and realized something had changed. People were watching me, smiling, clearly understanding that something special was happening. The teenage girl and her mum were beaming at me. A young couple by the engagement rings was whispering and grinning in my direction. That's when I decided to make it official. Excuse me, I said, loud enough for most of the store to hear. I just wanted to announce that today is my 26th birthday, and I just bought myself the most beautiful gift I've ever owned. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The saleswoman started clapping, then the teenage girl and her mom joined in, then the young couple, then everyone in earshot. Someone started singing Happy Birthday, and within seconds, the entire store was singing along. The manager appeared with a small bottle of champagne and plastic glasses, apparently something they kept on hand for special occasions. Before I knew it, I was having an impromptu birthday party with complete strangers who were more excited about my birthday than my family had ever been. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Not for social media initially, just to capture the moment, to have proof that this really happened. But as the singing continued and people started coming over to see my necklace and wish me happy birthday, I realized this was bigger than just a personal celebration. You guys, I said to the camera, tears starting to form in my eyes. I just bought myself the most incredible birthday gift, because sometimes you have to celebrate yourself when no one else will. And look what happened. I turned the camera around to show the crowd of strangers who had spontaneously created the birthday party I had always wanted. People were still clapping and raising their champagne glasses and telling me how beautiful the necklace looked. The video ended up being 3 minutes long. I posted it on TikTok with the hashtag #BirthdayQueen, not expecting much beyond maybe a few likes from friends. Within an hour, it had 1,000 views. Within 3 hours, 10,000. By evening, it was trending. The comments were overwhelming. You deserve this and so much more. Self-love queen. This made me cry, happy tears. I'm buying myself something special for my birthday because of you. The energy in that store was pure magic, but the comment that stopped me cold came from someone with the username and Sarah and M. Davidson, my sister. Emma, what the hell is this? Mum is freaking out. Call me. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Mum. Emma, honey, she said, with more enthusiasm than I had heard from her in years. I just saw your video. How exciting. We've actually been planning a surprise birthday dinner for you tonight. We were just waiting for the right moment to call. I stared at my reflection in my bathroom mirror, still wearing the diamond necklace, still glowing from the celebration at Tiffany's. The timing was not a coincidence. Really? I said. You've been planning this? Of course, we never forget your birthday, sweetheart. We just like to make it special. Can you meet us at Romano's at 7? Your father made reservations for the whole family. Romano's was the Italian restaurant where we had celebrated every major family milestone for the past 15 years. Sarah's graduation, Dad's promotion, Mum's 50th birthday. I had never been the guest of honour there, but I had attended plenty of celebrations for everyone else. Sure, I said, I'll be there. After I hung up, I sat on my bed and opened my laptop. I had been documenting this pattern for years without even realizing it. Screenshots of social media posts I wasn't included in, photos of family gatherings I heard about later, text exchanges that showed exactly how forgotten I had become. I had saved every piece of evidence, not for revenge, but for my own sanity. To remind myself that I wasn't being oversensitive or paranoid. The neglect was real and documented and consistent. Tonight, I was going to share that documentation. I spent an hour organising everything into a timeline. The Disney World trip on my 12th birthday, the graduation they missed, the Christmas I wasn't invited to, the surgery I wasn't told about. 26 years of being treated like an optional family member with evidence for every incident. Then I got dressed for dinner. I chose a black wrap dress that made the diamond necklace look even more stunning, heels that made me feel tall and confident, and makeup that emphasized my eyes. I looked successful and self-possessed and completely unbreakable. As I drove to Romano's, I thought about all the family dinners I had attended over the years as a supporting player in someone else's story. Tonight was different. Tonight, they would see me clearly, not as the low-maintenance daughter who adapted to everyone else's needs, but as the person I had always been underneath. Someone worthy of celebration, someone who had learned to give herself what she deserved. I walked into Romano's wearing my diamond necklace and carrying my phone full of evidence. They had no idea what was coming, but I did. They had spent 26 years making me invisible. Tonight, they would finally see me. I walked into Romano's at exactly 7 p.m, and the first thing I noticed was how surprised they looked to see me dressed up. Dad actually did a double take when he saw the necklace, and Mum's eyes went straight to my throat like she was calculating the cost. Emma, Mum said, jumping up to hug me with an enthusiasm that felt completely foreign. You look absolutely stunning. And that necklace, is that new? I bought it for myself today, I said, taking my seat at the round table they had reserved. For my birthday? Sarah was sitting across from me, and I could see her phone face down on the table. She kept glancing at it like she was expecting important news. Her boyfriend Jake was there too, which struck me as odd, since this was supposed to be a family celebration. Well, you deserve to treat yourself, Dad said, signalling the waiter. You work so hard. The conversation felt scripted, like they had rehearsed their lines on the way over. Mum kept asking questions about my job, Dad kept complimenting my appearance, and Sarah kept checking her phone. It was the most attention they had paid me in years, but it felt hollow, performative. "So," Mum said after we had ordered, "tell us about your day, besides the shopping, of course." "It was interesting," I said, pulling out my phone. "Actually, I made a video about it. Would you like to see?" Before anyone could answer, I opened TikTok and turned my phone toward the center of the table. The video started playing. Me in Tiffany's announcing my birthday to a store full of strangers, everyone singing and clapping and celebrating with genuine joy. I watched their faces as the video played. Dad looked confused, Mom looked uncomfortable, and Sarah looked mortified. Jake just looked like he wanted to disappear. "It's gone viral," I said as the video ended. "Almost 200,000 views now, thousands of comments from people saying how inspiring it was to see someone celebrate themselves." "That's great, honey," Mum said carefully. "But don't you think it's a little much, announcing personal things to strangers?" "Personal things?" I repeated. "You mean my birthday?" "Well, yes. Family celebrations should be private, don't you think?" I looked around the table at their uncomfortable faces and realized something profound. They weren't upset that I had celebrated my birthday publicly. They were upset that I had revealed their neglect publicly. "You're right," I said. "Family celebrations should be private." Which makes me curious about something. I opened my photo album and scrolled to a screenshot from that morning. Sarah's Instagram post of their brunch celebration posted at 1:47 p.m. "Can you explain this?" I said, showing them the phone. Sarah's face went white. Mom and Dad leaned forward to look at the screen, and I watched the colour drain from their faces too. "That was just," Sarah started. "Just what?" I asked. "Just a family celebration that happened to be on my birthday? Just a coincidence that you were all dressed up and toasting life while I spent my birthday alone?" The table went silent. The waiter approached with our drinks, took one look at the tension and quickly retreated. "Emma," Dad said slowly, "we can explain." "Please do," I said, "because I have 26 years of explanations I'd love to hear." I opened the folder on my phone that I had organised that afternoon. Screenshots, photos, a carefully documented timeline of every birthday they had missed, every celebration I had been excluded from, every family emergency I hadn't been told about. "Let's start with my 7th birthday," I said, scrolling to a photo of the note they had left me. "Emergency business trip to Chicago, but here's Dad's LinkedIn post from that weekend." I showed them the screenshot. Dad at a golf tournament with clients posting about successful relationship building and beautiful weather. "That wasn't an emergency," I continued. "That was a networking event you chose over your daughter's birthday." Mom reached for my phone, but I pulled it back. "I'm not done," I said. "My 12th birthday, Disney World for Sarah's volleyball tournament. Here's the math. Sarah's tournament was in Tampa. Disney World is in Orlando. 2 different cities, 2 different purposes. You used her tournament as an excuse to take a family vacation that didn't include me." I scrolled to the Instagram photos from that trip. Sarah wearing Mickey ears and holding a Sweet 16 balloon, even though her birthday wasn't for months. Mum and Dad laughing and hugging her in front of Cinderella's castle. You packed birthday decorations for a birthday that wasn't happening, but you forgot about the birthday that was. Sarah was staring at her hands now, unable to meet my eyes. Jake looked like he was trying to become invisible. "Emma, please," Mum said quietly. "We never meant to hurt you." "My high school graduation," I continued, ignoring her plea. "You missed it for a client dinner. But it wasn't just any client dinner, was it, Dad?" I showed them another LinkedIn screenshot. Dad with 3 colleagues at Ruth's Chris, celebrating what he had described as a minor contract renewal. "You chose steak dinner with clients over your daughter's valedictorian speech. The daughter who was about to start college on a full scholarship that she earned entirely by herself." Dad's hands were shaking slightly as he reached for his water glass. "And last Christmas," I said, my voice getting stronger, "immediate family only." But somehow immediate family included Jake and the Hendersons from next door, and Sarah's college roommate who was visiting. 7 people was too many to include your other daughter, but it was just right for everyone else. The evidence kept coming. Every forgotten birthday, every missed milestone, every family gathering I learned about through social media, I had documentation for everything. "And Mum's surgery," I said, pulling up the final screenshot. "The surgery I found out about 3 days later because nobody thought to tell me. But Jake knew. Jake, who isn't even technically family yet, knew about my mother's surgery before I did." Jake shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Emma, I'm sorry, I thought you knew Iggy." "It's not your fault," I said to him, then turned back to my parents. "It's theirs. They made a choice about who deserved to be informed about family emergencies, and I wasn't on the list." The waiter returned cautiously with our appetizers, but nobody was paying attention to food anymore. "Do you want to know what I realized today?" I asked. "I realized I've been grieving parents who never existed. I've been waiting 26 years for you to see me as worthy of your time and attention, but you never have, not once." Mum was crying now, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of embarrassment, of being confronted with evidence they couldn't deny. "That's not true," she said weakly. "Prove it," I said. "Name one birthday of mine you celebrated with the same energy you put into Sarah's celebrations. Name one achievement of mine that got the same attention as Sarah's volleyball games. Name one time you chose me over anything else." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "That's what I thought," I said. "Emma," Sarah finally spoke up, "I never asked them to treat you differently." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. For the first time in years, she was 29 years old, successful in her own right, but still sitting at this table, letting our parents orchestrate her life like she was 16. "You never asked them to treat me differently," I agreed. "But you never asked them to treat me equally either. You never once said, 'Where's Emma?' when they planned family events. You never once said we should call Emma when Mum was having surgery. You never once defended me or included me or even acknowledged that I was being excluded." Sarah's tears were different from Mum's. Hers looked like genuine remorse. "You're right," she whispered. "I should have done something." "But you didn't," I said. "None of you did. For 26 years you made me feel like I was asking for too much when all I wanted was to be treated like I belonged in this family. Dad finally found his voice. "What do you want from us, Emma? An apology? We're sorry. We made mistakes, but we're here now." "You're here now because 250,000 people saw me celebrating myself and you realised how bad it looked that you weren't part of it," I said. "You're not here because you remembered my birthday. You're here because I forced you to remember it." I stood up from the table, leaving my untouched appetizer and full glass of wine. "I want you to know something," I said. "That video I made today, those strangers in Tiffany's, they gave me the most genuine birthday celebration I've ever had. They were excited for me, they sang to me, they celebrated with me, and they didn't even know my name." I paused, letting that sink in. A room full of strangers cared more about my happiness than my own family ever has. "Emma, please sit down," Mum pleaded. "We can work this out. We can do better." "No," I said firmly, "we can't, because this isn't about doing better. This is about 26 years of showing me exactly where I stand in your priorities, and I finally accept it." I picked up my purse and looked around the table one last time. "I'm done waiting for you to love me the way I deserve to be loved. I'm done making myself smaller so you can feel better about how you've treated me. And I'm done pretending this is a family when I've never been treated like family." "So that's it?" Dad asked. "You're just giving up on us?" "I'm not giving up," I said. "I'm choosing myself. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself." I started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Sarah, that video has 300,000 views now. The comments are beautiful. Thousands of people sharing their own stories about celebrating themselves when their families wouldn't. Turns out I'm not the only one who needed to hear that message." I walked out of Romano's with my head held high, the diamond necklace catching the restaurant's dim lighting with every step. Behind me, I could hear the murmur of their shocked conversation, but I didn't look back. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for a moment and checked my phone. The video now had over 400,000 views and thousands of comments. I scrolled through them, reading story after story from people who understood exactly what I had been through. This made me cry. "I bought myself flowers today because of your video. 28 years old, and I've never had a real birthday party. This inspired me to plan my own. Your family doesn't deserve you. You're absolutely glowing in this video. I cut contact with my toxic family last year. Best decision I ever made. You deserve so much better." One comment in particular caught my attention. "You just gave yourself the greatest gift possible, freedom. Use it well." I drove home to my apartment, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat on my couch looking at myself in the mirror across the room. The woman looking back at me was wearing a $3,000 necklace and an expression of complete peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Emma, please can we talk? I know we messed up." I read it, then deleted it without responding. Another text from Mom. "Honey, we love you. Please don't cut us out of your life." I read that one too, then blocked the number. A missed call from Dad appeared, followed by a voicemail I didn't listen to. Over the next hour, my phone exploded with notifications from family members I hadn't heard from in years. Aunts and uncles and cousins who had somehow seen the video and were suddenly interested in reconnecting. I blocked every number, deleted every message, and turned off notifications for social media. Then I did something I had never done before. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not documentation this time, but something else. A letter to myself. Dear Emma, I typed, today you learned that you are worth celebrating, even if you have to celebrate yourself. Today you learned that strangers can show you more love in 5 minutes than your family has shown you in 26 years. Today you learned that you don't need anyone's permission to recognize your own worth. I wrote for an hour, documenting not the pain this time, but the liberation, the feeling of walking away from people who had never valued me, the joy of choosing myself over their comfort, the peace that came with finally accepting reality instead of fighting it. When I finished writing, I looked around my apartment, my space that I had created and decorated and paid for entirely by myself. Everything in it reflected my taste, my choices, my hard work. I had built a life that made me happy, and I had done it without their help or support or even their acknowledgement. I thought about the timeline I had shown them at dinner. 26 years of evidence that I had never been their priority. But looking at it from this new perspective, I realized something else. It was also 26 years of evidence that I didn't need them. I had succeeded academically without their encouragement. I had built a career without their connections. I had developed meaningful friendships without their social circle. I had created a life worth living without their participation. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The next morning, I woke up to discover my video had passed 1 million views. My inbox was full of interview requests from podcasters and journalists who wanted to talk about family estrangement and self-love and celebrating yourself when others won't. I spent the morning responding to comments from people who had shared their own stories of family rejection and finding strength in themselves. The community that had formed around my simple birthday celebration was overwhelming and beautiful. Around noon, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a massive floral arrangement being held by a delivery person I couldn't see behind it. Emma Davidson, the voice called. I opened the door and accepted the flowers. 3 dozen white roses with a card that read, "We're sorry. Please forgive us. Love, Mom, Dad, and Sarah." I carried the arrangement to my kitchen, removed the card, and threw it in the trash. Then I took a photo of the beautiful flowers and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "When you have to apologize with flowers this expensive, you probably should have just treated the person better in the first place. These are lovely though. I'll enjoy them." That afternoon, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible just 24 hours earlier. I called a real estate agent and started looking at condos again. Not with the money I had saved before. I had spent that on my necklace and I didn't regret a penny of it. But with a new savings plan, a new timeline, a new vision of my future. A future that didn't include waiting for my family to see me as worthy of their love. A future where I celebrated myself every single day, not just on my birthday. A future where I surrounded myself with people who chose me first, the way I had finally learned to choose myself.